everyone, my name is Jennifer Funnell, also known as Jennifer Funnell Visual Art on YouTube and Instagram, and I have teamed up with Etchr to bring you a class where I'm going to show you some different acrylic painting techniques for botanical flower paintings. I am so excited to answer all your questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you can hear us and see us okay, please type llama in the chat. Let us know where you're viewing from. How is it there? I see some. Let's see, we'll wait for a couple of seconds for it to register at the moment. Let's see. How is it where you're at again, Jennifer? Thank you so much again, everyone, for your patience. We're so glad that you're able to join us today. Yeah,
I'm here in Denver and it's pretty nice, but a little windy today. Sun is out.
thank you so much. I think let's see, I'll go ahead and just type something in the chat to let everyone know. Again, we are live. Okay. I'll type something right here. Okay, let's try to get people in the chat. Yay, all right, thanks so much, Kitty. It looks like we've got one, someone who's right here. Hold on. It is currently. Let's see what's up with that. Sorry, Jenny. I'll go ahead and just update you. And real quickly, I'm asking help from the back end at the moment. It appears like we are live, but it's still not with the right stream. Hold on. YouTube stream is live. I don't think that's. Hold on. YouTube stream. I have to end stream here. Excuse me. Excuse me. Do you think we are? Hold on. Let's go away in a loop. I'm sorry about that. I'm asking if somebody has. I'm sorry about that. I might have to delete this like live backend concerns later on.
Yeah, that's scan. I already got the first one off there. I can, it's easy. Yeah, I see the one video it just says waiting for Jennifer Funnell Visual Arts.
Yeah, it's that should be. Asking who else access my webcam. It should not. Hold on. Let's try that one more time. Okay. Excuse me. Otherwise, if I stream the preview, I will be the only one who can be seen, and that should not be the case. It should be streaming here. I found you, Kathleen. Somebody says.
Yes, I see that. Mhm.
It's only you, apparently. Or maybe it's because I have my camera off. Hold on. Let's try to see if that works. How that works. Let's see. I think we are live. What do you guys think? Let's see. But again,
We are, but I think it's just not in the right.
yeah,
spot.
it's not at the right, and it let's see. It should be here though. Do you think we can push through and figure things out later, or do you think we should proceed? I don't know. You're the owner of the YouTube page. Let's see.
Let's see. I wonder, what if I'm going to put this link in the chat box. Are you able to access this? Maybe we need to turn off the current live we're on. And then
Let's
see if.
Because if the link that we have right now at the moment, it's usually the one that has the webcam. So if I stream on the right platform, I'll be the only one that can be seen, which is not good. Like, I'm not the
Yeah.
star here. But I think we're gathering more people in the chat in this live one. Let's see if I could just let them know maybe that we're here. We are currently live. We have 5 people watching. Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Let's see. I'll go ahead and just mute it there. I'll copy link. Hi from Alaska. Okay, I think we can just proceed with this one because I think we won't be able to connect it to the right page.
Okay,
I'll
I
just
think here, I think I have an idea real quick.
and then I could put the link in the chat too.
Yeah, that's what I just did. I put the link.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep, with the one we're in.
Hold on, let's see. I'll also try to do that on the live. Close Google now because it's not working there. Okay. Thank you so much. All right, you placed that there. Oh, I don't have a YouTube studio. YouTube studio. Hold on. All right. So we'll just have to gather more people then. At the moment, hello everyone who's here, whoever is here already. Thank you so much for your patience. We'll go ahead and start shortly. Let's see. We've got, let's check again how many people we have at the moment. We've got, I'm here finally. Someone says, hello, Angela. Hello from Orlando. How is it where you guys are? It's getting warmer. Where I am at, and I think that's, of course, global warming, climate change. How is it where you're at, Jen?
Yeah, it's getting nicer here too. It's starting to warm up in Colorado, and windy today though, really windy.
Really windy. Oh, that's nice. It's very different from what I usually hear. I'll just type them in a chat. Please refresh Jen's page to see us live. Let's see. Okay, and I think we can go ahead and begin then if that's the case. So I'll just go ahead and briefly just show you, or maybe you can do the introduction yourself, Jen. You do the honors of introducing yourself, what
Yeah.
you're going to be doing in the 90-minute class, in the live demo. So I'll let Jen do that, but hello again, everybody. 76 degrees and slightly overcast here. Oh, all right. So I'm Kathleen. Thank you so much for your patience and for sticking with us right here on this live stream. And we are an art learning platform for those who are new with Etchr. We're an art learning platform who works with art teachers from all across the globe. And this works as today's free demo is brought to you by Jennifer Funnell and works as a preview for her 90-minute class. That class will be on May 22. That's 3 p.m. Eastern time. I'll drop that link in the chat. And if you are not going to be available during that time, then a recording will be up a few days later, so that's also fine. And I'll go ahead and Jen talk about that later, what she'll be doing in the 90-minute class. So if you have any questions for Jen, just type them in all capital letters, just like this. By the way, I'm typing as Jennifer Funnell in the chat, so don't get confused. We have a private Facebook group where you can share most of the things that you will be doing today. So it's free for everybody. And then keep an eye on the chat as well, because I'll be dropping several links there. So without further ado, and after some concerns and technical issues at the back end, thank you again, everyone. Jennifer, why not let us know what you'll be doing today and how that connects to your Etchr class?
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you, Kathleen, and welcome everyone. I'm so happy to have you with me today for this demo. And really, this demo I wanted to put together is it's a demo that is going to show you some basic acrylic techniques that you can really apply in a lot of different ways. Because when you think about botanicals and flowers and all of that, there's so many different varieties. So I really wanted to put together the different skills you would need to approach different botanicals. So these 6 skills that I'm going to talk about in this demo will really transfer to the botanical painting in my 90-minute class. So I'll be painting a tulip in that class, which is actually why here I picked those colors that kind of fit with the tulip, the reds and yellows. But then here I tried some other color variations. So sometimes I'll do colors that, are specific to the botanical that I'm painting. But then, sometimes you can just try various colors as well, just for exploration purposes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I think there you go.
All right, so here you can just see, I'm showing you some of the Etchr products, the watercolor block, and here I've got some Canson watercolor paper. So these demos that I'm going to show you are on watercolor paper. I like watercolor paper, just the smooth surface for acrylic is really nice. Well, get a little bit of texture, but not much. And then here I have the Etchr brush set. I really don't need the fan too much here. I mostly stuck with the flats, angles, and rounds, but you can kind of play around with brushes too, because you can get different results. And then here I just have some Strathmore palette paper. Palette paper is just really nice to mix on, but really any kind of palette can work as long as you have a surface to mix on. And then of course, acrylic is water-based. So I've got my cups of water. And then here I am using Liquitex heavy body professional paint. And I just have the basic colors. I've got a green, a blue, a yellow, a red, a white, black, and the specific colors are listed in the description too. But really, you can play around with any colors depending on what you want. And then here I have some gloss glazing liquid from Golden. This is good for glazing techniques that I will demonstrate later, but essentially it makes your paint more transparent and almost can behave a little bit more like watercolor in a sense. And then color wheels can be handy, and you could even Google a color wheel, but this can just help you with color combinations and different things like that. So to get started, just to show you, these are some of the finished examples, but there are 6 techniques here that I'm going to show you. And all 6 of these techniques are techniques that I have used in a variety of botanical paintings. So they're pretty kind of standard things that will help you when you get started. So I have a marker here just for some labeling. If you're a labeler, sometimes that's nice to have, but you don't have to. And I decided just to kind of start with my red. It's a crimson and the naphtha crimson. So I'll kind of hold them up here so you can see the specific colors too if you're interested. Ultramarine blue. But you, like I mentioned, can really use any types of colors you want and try different acrylic paints too. You've got heavy body, which is going to be thicker. That's what I'm using here. Here's the yellow light. But you could certainly do soft body, especially like if you love gouache and watercolor and are, like your paint a little bit thinner. You could try that too. But this heavy body is really nice for building up a lot of texture, which can be really fun to capture when you're painting botanicals. But here I'm just setting up my palette just with each of these colors. So here's the Mars Black. You don't need to necessarily set up your palette in this exact order or this exact way. I feel like, artists kind of have their methods for that, but I just like to kind of put them in a row so then I can pull out toward the other side of my palette paper there for mixing. And then here I'm just putting a little gloss glazing liquid down too, just to have that ready and then have my palette all set up. And of course, paper towel comes in handy as you're painting with acrylics. And again, just looking at my color wheel, you can, kind of pick and choose color schemes if you want to. With this tulip here, I've got, the reds and the green. So I'm really kind of playing with this complementary color scheme here with the tulip. And then just kind of like an analogous to a little bit when you think about the red, the orange, and the yellow kind of together. And then I opted for that blue background, but we'll talk more about that in the 90-minute class, of course. So to start, I'm just going to label these just because it makes life easier. But the first technique I'm going to show you is wet on wet. And you definitely want some water here, but you could also use glazing medium for this. Typically, you don't want to put any more than like 50% water into acrylic paint so you don't break down the binder. I'm using a flat paint brush here just so I can get some nice flat applications of paint. And then I just kind of mix in a little water with the paint just to thin it out a little bit, make it a little bit more transparent. So I usually refer to this as a wash. And I just wanted to show you this because this is one thing you can do with acrylic. But the main thing I want to show you, and here's some gloss glazing medium, just so you can see the difference, water versus the glazing medium. But the whole concept of wet on wet is that when acrylic paint is wet, when 2 colors or more are wet, they will mix and blend together. So wet on wet is how we get a lot of our blending or gradients, which when you think about flower petals, there is a lot of little gradients or color shifts. So this is such a great way to get that. Acrylic paint does dry very fast. So you can layer wet on wet, meaning if it dries up, you can always layer it again. But it can be really fun to mix actually directly on your paper because you just get some really nice kind of organic looking blends that, work for flowers. So I use it in the leaves and the petals and in various places. But anywhere where you want to blend, you can do that. And again, you can layer it as well. So I just like to play around with different color combinations, maybe thinking about instead of mixing a green ahead of time, maybe you lay down some blue and yellow on your paper and allow it to mix on your paper. Now, this looks a little bit more blue, but you get the idea that you can create these interesting combinations and get some interesting effects with the paint when you're allowing it to blend wet on wet. So the next thing is wet on dry. So when on dry, we need to start out with some dry paint. And that's actually true with several of these other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and just label a minute here. And then I'm going to prepare some swatches underneath some of these so I can allow them to dry. And depending on how familiar you are with acrylic paint, again, it dries very, very quickly. So it doesn't take too long. You could use like a hair dryer or blow dryer if you want to, but I'm just going to go ahead and some of these, you can see I just kind of pointed to a few there, that I'm going to lay out some just swatches. And usually, like I said, I like to just try different colors and experiment. Again, when it comes to botanicals, you've got a lot of colors you can play with. So it depends if you have something specific in mind, you could kind of play with those colors, or just, think of colors in general, reds and pinks and yellows and greens and that type of thing. So here, what I'm doing is just taking some of the yellow and laying out some swatches, again, letting that dry. When I rinse my paintbrush off, you can't really see it on the camera there, but I do really try to rinse that off in water really well and then blot on my paper towel before grabbing a new color. And then here, just grabbing some red, same idea, just allowing those to dry up so I can show you some of these techniques. Now, a little bit of water on your paintbrush will get you a little bit of a smoother edge. So, sometimes when you're painting with acrylic and it's very, very thick and your brush is dry, you can kind of see under the sgraffito on that little patch of red there on the right hand side of it. That's kind of what I'm referring to. That kind of, you see the little bit of the paint and the texture there. So sometimes we want to edge like that, sometimes we don't. So a little bit of water. Oh, you can see it there with the glazing too. See how that, that picks up the paper texture. So you can add more paint, thicken it up, add a touch of water. Again, you don't want to add any more than 50% water. Typically, it depends on the brand of paint though. More expensive, higher quality paint can probably withstand more water than like a cheaper paint could break down faster. So that's why that glazing medium comes in handy, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So here I'm just doing some blue too. So I thought I'd do the primary colors just to give a little example. So again, you can do a little prep work, paint some of these little swatches, let them dry, get them ready to roll. We're almost there. But yeah, these 6 techniques, really, you will just use them over and over and over and over again. And you start getting really good at them and thinking about when you could use them. And the thing about painting something like a tulip is there's multiple approaches too. So you might, somewhere where I might glaze, someone else might decide to scumble and add texture that way. So here, just add a little green in there too, just because green is always nice for botanicals, for the leaves and all that sort of thing. So get a few more of these swatches in. And you can see with that flat paintbrush, I like to use that flat paintbrush because I get a nice even coat. Now, I'm not really worrying about my edges here because they just don't matter, but I like the application of paint to be nice and even and consistent. So I really like the flat paintbrushes for some of that initial work. So while those dry up, let's let them dry, and let's talk about blocking in a minute while these other backgrounds are drying for us. So blocking in is something that I do a lot of, like for petals, leaves, any area where you see a light version of a color, that regular version of a color, and then maybe a dark version of the color. Or maybe it's like the normal red and then two tints lighter too. So you can see here, I'm just taking some red and then I mix some white just to create some lighter tints of red or lighter values, because a lot of times we see that in flower petals. So blocking in, what that means is you are taking maybe three values, maybe 4, maybe 5, it depends, and you are layering them placing them side by side, like you're seeing here in the video. So I'm just placing these side by side and letting the edges slightly overlap. Now, right there, they still look very, defined, like streaks. But now, after you block in, what you can do on those little seams is you can blend them together. So wet on wet, while the paint is wet, we can merge the two colors together. Now, I often dry my brush off, and then I'll take the brush and go back in and blend. Now you have to work quick because your paint dries quick. So here you can see I'm mixing a little bit more wet paint to get in that lighter area. So you do have to sometimes mix some paint together, but notice how I can create like a soft gradient, and I'm maintaining like the light, the medium, and the darker, doing it this way. So that's what blocking in refers to, just kind of putting a base of the different values in, and then just kind of blending as much as you want to. So yeah, that can be really, really fun for petals, leaves, even like backgrounds can be really nice to create like a sky behind the flower, depending. So here I just grabbed the angled flat. I've got the round, and then the flat I've been using. I like to experiment with different brushes just because they're going to produce different strokes. But here we go, wet on dry. So what I'm doing is painting wet paint on dry paint. And notice how crisp it is. Like the edges show, it builds up on top. You can try, like here, I'm tapping the brush. You can layer it. You can do the wet on wet techniques on top of this now. But what this does is allow you to really build up and layer. So I kind of view wet on wet as like blending, and wet on dry as building up layers. So it's really important in acrylic paint to know when you need to work wet paint with wet paint and when you need to step back and let things dry. And just, playing with some of these little samples, even though they're simple, will help you just kind of understand that concept, and it becomes easier to apply in a painting. And some flowers have little details or texture, so you do want to think about, okay, maybe I need to let something dry up and then build up layers. But again, you can certainly do wet on top of these dried swatches as well, or dried areas of paint as well, just to create interesting things. So yeah, I really like playing around like this just because it gives me ideas of things I could try. So sgraffito here, we've got the background area all dry. So I am taking a second color here. I just decided gray, and I painted it on top of the dry layer. And then with the back of my paintbrush, I can scratch into the paint. It's kind of like etching essentially, but it's called sgraffito. And so here you can see me do this again. This can be really cool for just like little details on a petal, like a flower petal. Sorry, my hand's in the way here. I'll move in a minute. But what I'm doing is just kind of tapping. Again, I like to move my brush, and in this case, the back of the paintbrush, in just different directions, and sometimes bigger strokes, sometimes small tapping strokes. I think that can just be really interesting to give you different kinds of texture. So here I mixed just a lighter green on top of the darker green. That can be, kind of fun for leaf texture. This could even be kind of a fun way to add some like subtle leaves in the background or something, just kind of by scratching a little leaf shape into the wet paint. And again, that dry color, whatever that paint color underneath, just kind of pokes through a little bit. So yeah, sgraffito isn't typically something I do in like large areas. It often tends to be like smaller detailing, but it varies and just depends what you want to do. But any kind of lines or little shapes, you can just kind of etch into the paint. So it's a little closer up view there.
Yeah.
Lovely
details.
Yeah, here you go. You can just kind of see them a little bit closer up too. So scumbling is one of my favorite ways to shade. I like to use a little bit of a drier paintbrush, so not too much water on my paintbrush here. And you can do any color. And actually, I like to kind of wipe my brush off a little. Like you can see here, I'm doing it on the palette paper. Sometimes I do it on paper towel, just depends how much. But scumbling is like little soft circular motions. So it's not going to apply opaque coverage to what's underneath, but it's going to subtly like tint it, shade it. It's a way to add like shadows or slight definition, or let's say you have to differentiate between two red petals. It could be a way to like slightly darken without making it so dramatic. So again, it just depends how much paint you've got on your brush. Again, I like a dry paintbrush typically, but you could even put a little water in there. I mean, that could create an interesting effect potentially. But typically with scumbling, I keep it relatively little bit of paint on my brush and dry. And here I'm doing a round paintbrush just to show you a different shape. Typically I paint a lot with round paintbrushes and flat paintbrushes. I like to keep my palette or my paintbrush selection relatively simple because they can do a lot, but it's not exclusive to that. But here you can see I'm just adding a little bit. I wiped quite a bit off there with the paper towel. So just a really subtle way. It's also a way to really soften edges on things too. Sometimes I'll scumble something to the edge and then it just makes it really, really soft. So then you can play with fun color combinations or keep it subtle. It can be a subtle way to add texture too. And then lastly, I'm going to show you glazing. And glazing, I like to use my glazing medium, but you could use water for this. Again, just keep it around like 50%. You don't want to go too much. But you can see here what the glazing gloss medium did to my paint was it made it more transparent. It thinned it out. And when you thin, I like to think about this as like when you put on sunglasses, right? Like you can still see sunglasses are transparent, but they now put a filter over things. Like you're seeing things through a different lens. So that's kind of what glazing does. You can see what's underneath, but you're kind of tinting it slightly. So here I'm kind of doing, some interesting combinations of colors, but when you're thinking about flowers, even like glazing different kinds of pinks or glazing a little purple over a pink, it's a way to add something slightly, but you can still see underneath poking through. So it's transparent paint over top of opaque paint is what glazing does. But I encourage you, if you try glazing and you don't have medium, you can try water, but I will say medium, the gloss medium is your best bet for glazing. Yeah, these techniques are just really simple, easy techniques to try. Again, you can get these fun blends, you can layer, build up texture, again, blend between colors like transitioning for petals, adding texture with sgraffito, just tiny detailing, scumbling, again, just really good soft kind of detailing, and then of course glazing to just kind of slightly change colors. And just to show you some other variations too. And all of these techniques can be applied to paint so many different kinds of flowers and different botanicals, really anything you want. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it too. And these techniques will just become just second nature. You'll just start using them. You'll kind of know when to use them. But these are the techniques I really use anytime I'm starting to paint something in acrylic.
All right, those are really fun techniques to do. And thank you so much, Jen, again, for explaining that to us really well. If you guys have questions in the chat, let us know. In the meantime, just gonna look for, maybe we could touch in with the 90-minute class, which we will be doing on May 22. Is that right? May 22, 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
Maybe we want to talk about that. I'll just go ahead and flash the 90-minute class piece. Hold on. So for everyone who doesn't know the 90-minute class, it's streamed live on Etchr's website, and that is for, well, 90 minutes. And it's a step-by-step process where you guys will be doing or painting along with Jen. And you guys, it's gonna be live, live. So there's time for you to pause and maybe join Jen. And if you won't be available during that specific time, don't worry, because a recording will be available right after, or shortly, a few days after the live. So you can definitely catch up and watch the recording all over again. So Jen, you might want to re-explain to others what you'll be doing in the 90-minute class.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the 90-minute class, I'll be using these 6 techniques, and we'll actually be going through and painting the tulip you see together, which will be really fun and exciting. So it's a fun project. And again, these techniques you can apply again and again with really any kind of flower you might want to paint.
Cool. All right. I'll go ahead and stop sharing first so that you guys can see us. And if you have questions as well, let us know in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and try to see if we've got questions right here. Meanwhile, let's see. Jen, do you have any preferences for, I don't know, any acrylic brands or any materials that, you know, is good for beginners?
Yeah, I mean, really, you can't go wrong with any Liquitex acrylic paints. The Liquitex Professional is what I'm using in the video, but they have a basics line that's really nice too, especially for beginners. If you're seeing if acrylic painting is for you, golden paints are really great too, and even the Arteza paints are really budget friendly and are pretty good quality as well.
That's good to know. All right. Nice recommendations. Let's see. I don't see any questions so far, so I'll just keep asking Jen questions that I might know. I'll take this opportunity then. And in the meantime, let's see, I'll be dropping also some links that you might find useful, including our survey form right here. So Jen, for someone who is, say, for example, a watercolor artist or a gouache artist, do you think it's going to be hard for them to switch, let's say, from that medium to acrylic, or what will be the common struggle that they will encounter?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, artists that aren't as familiar with acrylic will definitely take some getting used to, especially for gouache artists that are used to being able to reactivate and kind of move things around. Because acrylic, you can't do that so much. But what you can do is if you don't like something, you just completely let it dry and you can paint over top of it with nothing coming back off. So, you know, I always think of pros on all of them. Like, I think it's just all good. But it's kind of just getting to understand like how acrylic behaves. And once you understand, and that's again why I wanted to show these techniques, because once you understand those basic kind of principles, you're like ready to roll. And the blending possibilities are really awesome. I would say it's very different than acrylic, acrylic is very different than watercolor. You can, of course, water acrylic down to some degree. You don't want to go too much. Otherwise, again, you can break down the binder in the paint. But watercolor, it's you're thinking about your highlights ahead of time. Right. You're starting kind of with some of those things, and you're starting very, very light. Whereas when I'm painting with acrylic, a lot of times I'm starting with my darks and my highlights come last. So order definitely is different, but I change between all the paint mediums and love it. So I definitely think people can do it. It's just getting to understand the differences for sure.
Gotcha. Well, it definitely is different, and it takes time to get to know, I guess, the nature of acrylics and also compared to other mediums. But as you may have seen earlier. It looks like it's super fun. It's a super fun medium to play with. And Jennifer has been so amazing to break down all of these steps for us. These are some steps that, I don't know, for me at least, I didn't know it has a name, but it looks like there is a name for it. So thank you so much for showing those to us. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and let you guys type something in the chat, any questions. But if you are too shy, you can definitely just chat Jennifer Funnell on her Instagram. I just dropped that link in the chat. Or maybe you could also, oh, okay, we got an interesting question. What's gloss glazing liquid for?
This right here, the gloss glazing liquid is an acrylic medium that you mix with the acrylic paint to essentially change how it looks, if you want to say. So like acrylic paint is typically very opaque, very, I was using heavy body paints. Here you one of these. These are heavy body. So it's very thick paint. So what this does is when you mix it with your acrylic paint, it thins it down and makes it more transparent. So if you're like a watercolor artist, like thinking about almost like your watercolor washes, it makes it like that. Or if you're doing glazing techniques in watercolor, this allows you to do glazing techniques in acrylic painting. So you could have something totally solid, and you could then, let's say you have a solid red petal and you want to have subtle, like dark red, but you want it subtle. This is a great way to do that. You mix some of this in with even just a little pure black, and you get this like nice subtle paint that you can use to make shadow. Does it slow the drying time? It does a little bit. Yep, you can in fact see that on this. It does say slow drying extender. This particular, that is something that glazing medium does. This is another brand I have of glazing medium just to show you. This is Liquitex glazing medium, and this is golden. And this is a gloss, so that gloss meaning it has a little shine to it. Like if you're a fan of gouache and you like the matte of gouache, you can get a matte glazing medium. It doesn't have to be shiny, but yeah, great question. Let me know if there's anything else.
Yeah, these are great questions. Thank you so much. And Peanut, I think he or she was one of our first viewers earlier. So thank you so much for sticking with us. And all right, another one from Sarah. Just out of curiosity, what is your favorite paper for acrylic?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I really just love cold press watercolor paper. It's so versatile. I get to use it for my gouache and my watercolor too. So it's nice to have. But you can get some canvas paper, which is really nice too, especially if you don't want to splurge and buy canvas panels or stretched canvas. That canvas paper is really, really nice too. It's pre-gessoed, which is a primer on the paper ready to roll. It kind of just depends how much texture you want. So a lot of times that's why I like the cold press watercolor paper. I mean, there is subtle texture there, but the acrylic covers it so much, and then you can play with the texture of the paint too. So great question.
All right. These are wonderful questions, by the way, and thank you so much, everybody. And let's see, keep them coming. Meanwhile, I'll start wrapping up if there are more questions. So if you have some lovely comments for Jen, go ahead and just drop them in the chat. Or again, if you're too shy to drop them here in the chat, you can chat her on Instagram, on our Facebook group. Maybe you can share what you have did today. I'll go ahead and just drop that here. And what's fun about today is we didn't have like a reference photo, so no pressure, just chill and just having fun. So which is really nice. All right, I don't see any more questions. Okay, so we do these live demos a couple of times a week, so make sure to hit that like button if you loved this video, and subscribe to Jennifer Funnell so that we can definitely show our support to her. And and also on Etchr's YouTube channel, which I dropped in a link in the chat to see more of the live sessions. Jennifer does her own videos, so if you want to learn more about acrylics, you could definitely check out her page, which I believe you just did. And if you love today's session, again, click on the like button below and let us know through our feedback survey how we did today. So let us know how Jen has pretty much explained to you amazingly how to deal with acrylics. And let's see. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Kathleen. And thank you for sticking with us.
Thank you.
Etchr also has a Make More Art podcast with artists, some of our artists being interviewed. And if you want Jennifer to be back for more in the future, definitely just go to the survey form that I've dropped in the chat and let us know what ideas or any ideas you have. So let's see. Okay, I don't see any questions. So Jen, any final thoughts before we close the session?
No, this is great. I appreciate everyone. And yeah, please like and subscribe and hit me up if you have any acrylic painting questions.
Yes, definitely. I'll be dropping some of the links right here, which you might find useful as well. Jen's 90-minute class, Instagram, survey form, any of those, you can grab the link in the chat. All right. And thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us. And thank you, Jennifer, for that lovely demonstration. And until next time, everybody, make more art. Bye for now.
Make more art. Bye.